Today we meet Simoné, interior designer and founder of Studio Kája, a furniture studio built on ethics, craft and longevity. Creating solid wood pieces with skilled local artisans, Simoné is redefining what it means to design furniture that truly lasts. We'll talk sustainability beyond buzzwords, the real people behind each piece, and how thoughtful design can shape the way we live. Welcome to Apax Empowered. Simoné, welcome to Apax Empowered. It's so nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Rudy.
And I can't believe our paths crossed in 2021 and here we are again in 2026.
Yeah.
Meeting one another again, and I can just relate to your story in so many ways. So it's so nice to have you here to share your story. Back in the day, we met when you were still working at the building center, right?
Yeah. I was kind of newly out of college interior designer and working multiple jobs, and I remember meeting you and doing a bit of freelance work for you, some renders in the evenings after working 6 days a week. But yeah, it's such a cool full circle moment to be here now, because I think shortly after that I started Studio Kája.
That's right. And I remember at the time when we had the conversation, you said that you want to pursue this furniture business, but at that time it was just an idea that you had.
Yeah.
How did it grow from that point on?
Sure. I just remember kind of like eat, sleep, breathe furniture. So every job I would have, whatever I was doing, whenever I had a little bit of extra time, it was like sketching and researching, and whether that was like going to the library and looking at old design books or watching films about like Charles and Ray Eames and things like that. You know, I think it was just like a constant, like, how do I make this happen? And so that ended up being working quite a few jobs at once to just prep that. And yeah, I think it was just started thinking about it and then got to a point where I knew I had to kind of go all in, and I couldn't be doing all these multiple jobs if I wanted this thing to work and really give it my all. And and so I took the leap and started approaching producers, and yeah, I kind of just grew from there.
So who was your first collab with? Who did you approach to start with your prototype?
I actually originally, my first piece that I produced was with a guy called Wright McCoy, and he is a sculpture artist who works in Montebello Design Center. I think it's in Rondebosch. Yeah. And so he literally has like an outdoor workshop, and I met him and I thought this is a very low risk kind of place to start producing, and really formed almost like a friendship with him while working, and just produced these little stools, like very handmade. I was kind of helping to sand these pieces down and hand deliver them to the first clients, and so that was kind of the start of it, more on like an informal scale. And then after that, when I saw this could work, this is something that people do want, and it's something that people resonate with, that's when I started approaching producers and factories and trying to see how to do this in a way that, you know, was important to me, and aligned with how I valued how to work. Yeah.
And so at that point, you decided to just work with one production company, or?
Yeah, so that is when I found Pierre Cronier.
Okay.
This was after a long search. I had gone to quite a lot of manufacturers and factories, and I had worked, you know, with furniture companies for a while as well. I think it was a big thing for me to work with people that produce, you know, ethically, and that was in terms of materials as well as how they treat their artisans, and making products that last. And so visiting quite a lot of manufacturers, finally found Pierre Cronier, and then a lot of negotiation around how to find a place where this is sustainable for me, who's, you know, a small producer, and what works for them as well. And so yeah, so then we kind of formed like a partnership, and I started producing in small batches with them.
And at this point, you had a full range designed?
No, not at all.
Okay.
so it was very much, you know, approaching them with a dream.
Yes.
and kind of doing it backwards. I think a lot of people have a business plan and they know what they want and they produce their designs. But I had a dream.
And a brave heart.
And yeah, and I think especially being a woman in this industry, you know, you're sitting in a boardroom full of men and trying to pitch this to them as well. But yeah, I think it started with one piece, our first chair, and you know, you can design something and that's great on paper, but once you start producing and you work with engineers and you work with the artisans and they're like, actually no, this is going to break long term, or these joints won't work, or there's so much that changes during the actual production phase that informs your design. So a lot of the designs started as an idea or a sketch, but have evolved so much producing with them because they are just such experts. So yeah.
If I remember correctly, you are an Inkscape alumni.
Yes.
Studied interior design.
Yes.
And now you crossed over to industrial design. And you chose a very specific material to work with, and that's wood, right? How did you approach that materiality, and like how did you start exploring with the material?
I don't think it was even planned. I remember thinking I really want to work with natural materials. That was a big one.
So this is where the ethical part comes in.
Yes,
like sustainability.
Yes, and look, that being said, I don't think that sustainability is necessarily natural materials always. If your granny's plastic chair is going to last throughout the generations, that I would also call sustainability, you know. So I think there's a lot of greenwashing going on in the industry. You can slap a certificate on something and say it's FSC produced, but I think it's just the way that the product is used, how long it can last, and also how it's produced. So, you know, working with Pierre Grenier, they just incidentally worked a lot with solid wood. And when I learned where they are sourcing their wood and how, you know, they allow a tree to grow before and then it gets chopped down, then they wait for new saplings to grow. There's such a process around how they use their wood and where they source it from, that really inspired me. So I then started producing in mostly wood because of, you know, this was the manufacturer's place of expertise. I did explore, and yeah, I mean, maybe in the future there is definitely going to be evolving into like other materials, but it was yeah the most interesting material for me to work with at the time.
So how do we design something to last?
That is a good question. And that's a goal that I'm constantly trying to achieve with Studio Kája. I think the first thing is, once again, material. Is it solid wood as opposed to something that is chipboard or something that will just splinter or warp with time? Is it made well? So are the people that are producing it, you know, masters of their craft? A lot of the guys that we work with have been honing this for decades. They've been mentored as little kids, and so 10, 20 years later, they're still doing this. And so they just learn techniques that are traditional and joinery that, you know, we've seen tables that come from generations that have lasted. And so I think it's your material. I think it's not compromising on quality. And then it's who produces it and paying them well, you know. So I really believe in that, like paying people fairly. And I think all of that will contribute to something that lasts.
Oh, it's so inspiring. Like I'm awestruck. It's you've done so much already in such a short period of time. And then you were approached by Furniture Week to exhibit some of your pieces.
Yeah, so that was, I'm trying to think now. It feels like years. It's been 4 years of Studio Kája, but I think within my first year of starting Studio Kája, I was approached by Gareth and Amy from Furniture Week. And I remember we met up at Pauline's and they had this scruffy doggy that came with, and they just kind of said to me, listen, we love what you're doing. And they, in a way, like believed in what I was doing and just said, do you want to exhibit? And yeah, that was really the start of getting my work out into the public and making it more known beyond my own, you know, Instagram or whatever I was starting.
So you refer to your Instagram as well. Is that where it sort of all started, your first orders? Did it come
Yes.
from Instagram and social media?
Until today, most of my clients really do originate, they stem from social media. Mostly Instagram. It's crazy. I think it's just all I knew how to do at the time. And when you have a small business, you are wearing every hat.
Of course.
And so I wasn't like a professional in SEOs or
Marketing and boosting. And
you learn these things as you go, and it's definitely getting better and it's growing. But that was the main source for sure.
And tell me your demographic. Do you have a specific demographic, or is it quite wide?
It is quite wide. It constantly evolves. I think that there are a lot of interior designers that buy from Studio Kája, and then also personal, like private clients. And it's quite special because it'll be someone that will have been looking at something and maybe saving up for a piece for a long time, and we've actually formed a relationship because we're chatting so much, and then they'll end up buying and they'll end up coming back. And so you really do form relationships with your clients. So I would say interior designers, private clients, it ranges. It definitely ranges, but a lot of interior designers.
Tell me more about Loading Bay. You also collabed with them.
Yes, so we've recently launched at Loading Bay, which was a very cool pinch me moment for me because I had looked up to Jean-Paul's work that he's done with Pauline's and Loading Bay and Sans, and just the way that he works and his ethics and values around how he creates spaces. We became friends just because I was a huge fan of his coffee. And through that, I exhibited at Loading Bay during Furniture Week last year. I had swapped out all of his furniture for Studio Kája's pieces, and when I removed them, we were kind of like, he was like, we miss it. And we started chatting and possibilities of having almost like an interactive showroom with them, and a lot of conversations later, we ended up launching at Loading Bay during this year. Was it this year? I didn't think. I'm sorry, my brain.
Yeah, it was January, February this year.
Yeah, so this year we had a launch there, and so now our furniture pieces are permanently in Loading Bay, which is super cool.
But you touched on something quite important there. It's about that clients being able to interact with the furniture, to feel it, to test it out. And I think that's a valuable point that Loading Bay offers you and your business.
Yes, I think I've never wanted the furniture to feel like it's just an art piece standing there and it's unapproachable. I always wanted it to feel honest, and people should be able to come in and test it out and feel it and smell the wood, and there's so much value that you gain out of being able to actually interact with it and test it out. And so that was the goal. And that comes with its challenges because obviously it's a very high traffic area, so you're really testing out these pieces. And so you're definitely seeing how far they can be pushed.
And then what is the process? Are they able to take the furniture pieces from the store, or do they order from the store?
No, so the furniture pieces that are in store will remain, but they can then contact us, and if they saw something that they like, we can reproduce that in whatever stain and fabric option that they would like.
And now a very technical point, and a lot of clients don't understand it. It's the lead time to actually manufacture this product after it has been ordered. What is your lead time at the moment?
So depending on whether we have some raw stock, I like to produce in small batches where we have raw stock, as in like the pieces that we can assemble. If we have some raw stock of a piece in our collection, it's around about 4 weeks just to stain and finish. But if you're ordering from new, that can take anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks at a time, depending on how busy the factory is, depending on how much work the artisans have. It really is a long process, and that's because there's so much care that goes into it.
Well, that's the love and the attention that you actually want. And once that energy has gone into that piece, that is going to give it its longevity,
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
How do materials influence whether something feels timeless or temporary?
I think materials play a huge part in what I do. I'm very passionate about materials actually. I'm quite a nerd when it comes to this. So I'm very tactile. You know, a cheap material, for lack of a better word, or a synthetic material, and I mean sometimes synthetic materials can look good, versus high quality, natural, well-sourced materials can absolutely affect how something looks and how it ages. You know, wood gets better with time, I always say. So the longer it lives, the more beautiful it becomes, the more of a, almost like a patina it gets. The same with cotton, the same with most natural materials I find really age well. And so it is worth spending a little bit more and then getting a lot more long term out of it. Yeah, I think it's so important. I think it's important to feel it and to touch it, and it just absolutely affects how it looks and how it ages.
You as an interior designer, what responsibility do designers have in shifting how people consume interiors?
I personally definitely feel a responsibility. That is kind of how I started Studio Kája, was feeling this responsibility of there's already so much stuff out there. There's so much beautiful design. Why would I need to produce and start my own brand? And I think that's why for me, it's every day is that responsibility of, am I using high quality materials? Am I paying artisans fairly? Am I approaching the right people and thinking long term, thinking how does this last? You know, all these things. So I definitely feel that responsibility, and I think it's great to be having these conversations around it, because someone might not be thinking that way, and it could be really just could be out of a place of not knowing or not having thought about it or not having awareness around it. And so I think it's important for our industry that more and more designers do start thinking this way. Yeah, I do think it's very important.
I also feel like consumers don't understand how many families they actually feed from one of these furniture pieces.
No, absolutely.
So many hands that touch them, so many people involved in producing this.
Yeah, I think I'm so passionate about the people that I work with, and I learn so much from them. They truly are the heroes, and I think that's why I often step back with Studio Kája and I want the artisans to be the heroes, because they truly are. These are guys that have been honing their craft honestly for decades, and they are often not very well paid and are working long hours, sometimes into the evenings to finish projects and to get to deadlines. And yeah, I just think people don't understand, especially buying local, how much of a difference you as the client are making, as well as the designer, and how if we can all kind of start to embrace that a bit more, it's truly just, it's like a butterfly effect. It makes a huge difference. I think if people could come with us and chat with our artisans, they would know just how much of a difference it makes to these guys and how passionate they are about what they do. Yeah, it's inspiring for me.
How does one object have a lot of uses?
I think designing in a way where something can be versatile and it can change depending on people's needs, that really helps. So for instance, we've got a little stool that you can actually unclip its cushion, and so from a stool it becomes a side table, it becomes a kid's chair, and so over the years it kind of evolves. And I think it's the same as thinking of, you know, your childhood desk that you had in your room. That I personally had one of these, and when I moved to my first apartment, that became my dining table, and so I still have it, and it was my parents' first dining table. So these things that can change and shift, and I think that it really helps to design something with that in mind, and so that it's not just so singular, and maybe the design is quite simple. And yeah, and simple design is not always easier either. It's often harder to produce.
For sure. No,
simple designs, yeah.
So you just spoke about the side table or the coffee table.
Yes.
Having two uses.
Yes.
Are you designing a different range as well?
No,
Not yet.
so I think about like our
Yeah.
current range that has stools in it that become side tables.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I'm more thinking about the current range that's already
Yes,
shifts.
in. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
But are you taking that forward into new designs as well now?
For sure. Even thinking of, upholstered pieces, I've been thinking of the idea that something is a couch, but then it can maybe be disassembled and become something else, and in a way that's not kitsch or kind of trendy, but can last and can become many things. Yeah.
When people are using furniture pieces, things will break over time. How do you approach repair?
Yeah, so I think that's a huge part of sustainability, because as much as we want something to last generations, and that's definitely the goal when we produce it, accidents happen. Some of our clients are on wine farms, and when someone's had a few glasses of wine, many rowdy things happen, and we don't know what is happening to our furniture, and a leg breaks. And so I think a big part of sustainability is going, okay, thank you for letting us know, we're on our way, we're going to fetch it, we will repair it, so that it's not part of that throwaway culture. It's not part of that, oh, when something breaks, I throw it away. We actually repair, we care, we bring it back, and so that it can continue to have many lifetimes.
I think it's a great after-sales service that you're offering.
Yeah.
And it's really something unique and great.
Thank you. Yeah, and that comes back into your manufacturer and who you choose to partner with. It's so important.
So that you can always approach them again.
Yes.
Help out.
Yes, exactly.
Help needed.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So tell me more about your most recent exhibit at Furniture Week. What did you produce? What was the call?
So the most recent Furniture Week, I collaborated with a very talented potter. His name is Mr. Malanti. And I met him through Jeremy Rose, who is a very talented artist. He actually only has one arm. And he had invited Mr. Malanti into his studio to drink some coffee. He was one of the maintenance men at his old building. And he needed a hand with needing some of the clay for some vases that he was creating and selling. And Mr. Malanti ended up just having like an innate talent in doing this. And so Jeremy helped him to basically start his own business.
Yeah.
And we met by chance because I was chatting to Jeremy about some other work. And it was so inspiring to me. And I just thought, here's someone who his whole life has changed. He was able to quit his maintenance job. He's so passionate about this. He has this talent for it. He has patience like no one I've ever met. And this feeds his family. It's changed his life. He's able to now help his kids, and there's so much that goes into it. And so I think if basically we met, we became friends, and I just said, is there any way I can also help you make these pieces while I'm here, just because it was so cool to learn from him. And so he allowed me to get involved in the process, and so we made once-off pieces by hand, a limited collection, and displayed them at Furniture Week, and he was able to come and see them as well on display, and it was just a very cool
That must have been
moment.
so special.
Yeah, he's a special guy. Yeah.
And so who ended up being the lucky owners of these new pieces?
So we've got a few like private collectors that were very keen on securing them quickly, and there's one or two that are still available. But they've gone quite quickly.
So are you thinking of expanding a range into pottery?
This is something that, I think you test out a material or a product and you see how the market takes it, because you can love something, but the market decides.
For sure.
So luckily these have moved, and so that is definitely something I'm thinking of beyond the core collection. Yeah, definitely.
So what is next other than possibly doing this collection in the future of Studio Kája?
I think Studio Kája is currently in definitely like a transition period. I'm taking a bit of a pause to think what is the way forward, and do I want to keep producing the same collection? Is it something new? There's so many things that I've got little dreams about, whether it's like a bit of a modular kind of like an upholstered collection, or kids, or I don't know. So there's a lot of dreams and thoughts around that, but definitely at a stage now where something is going to need to kind of shift or move. So
exciting times
coming
ahead.
soon. Yeah.
Fantastic. I wish you all the best with your Studio Kája.
Thank you.
And may it go well in future, and may you reach great success.
Thank you so much.